RISE program is specific for our state's dedicated first responders. Next slide. There you go. Our RISE program offers four primary support services: peer staffed crisis helplines, webinars, which you are a part of today, virtual support groups to allow you to come together and talk to one another, and a database of our resources and outreach programs to connect to you while you're serving everyone else. Next slide. Here's our team and faces behind the phone lines, the ones sitting with you during the support groups, and here with you today during our webinar. We are staffed with first responders just like you, retired and active during the pandemic. We have over 100 years of combined experience working in law enforcement, fire, EMS, and armed forces. Now we ask the RISE and the HEAL staff, if you're with us today, to introduce yourselves in the chat box. Our webinar series follows the UPenn resiliency model. Here are the 6 skills we will discuss throughout our webinar series to help you build your resilience and help prevent anxiety and depression. So we talk about self-awareness, self-regulation, mental agility, strength of character, connection, and optimism. The last several webinars, we have packed your toolbox with tools to help you get through those fight or flight moments. But now we want to give you techniques on how to use those tools. So today we will discuss skills to help you work on the mental agility. I'm going to take a second to think about, when you hear the word mental agility in regard to your own resilience, what do you think about? Share with us in the chat box. So mental agility is our ability to think flexibly, accurately, and thoroughly, especially under stress. When things don't always go as planned, we need to be able to look at things from multiple perspectives. When plan A isn't working, are you able to look for plan B, or are you just too consumed that one idea isn't working? We need to be able to identify and understand problems, and our willingness to try new things. Under high pressured situations, which as first responders, we're all too familiar with, we need to be able to think on our toes, calm ourselves down, and think outside the box to get the job done. This is a great picture that allows us to see what a growing mindset sounds like and the difference of what those thoughts sound like and look like in a fixed or stuck mindset. So I just want you to take a second and read some of them to yourselves and think about where you are in your life right now with all the things going on around you. We're clearing up from this pandemic, and sometimes we don't have to wear these masks anymore, and like our lives are changing. Where are you right now in your life? Are you in a growing mindset or a fixed state? Which one best describes you currently with this last couple days, the last couple weeks? So let's talk about so today we're going to help you build your mental agility. We want to teach you some techniques today. These are the 2 skills that we're going to learn: mental games and thinking traps. And as we go through all this, some of these things you probably already do unwillingly or unknowingly, and you don't even know that these are actually helping to build your own self resilience through mental agility. So next slide. The first skill we're going to talk about is mental games. The goal of mental games are to change the focus or change counterproductive thinking by engaging your attention in games or challenging techniques. We want to redirect your thinking and patterns. These games will help us build self-regulation and are not used to soul search, but just a quick band-aid and a quick fix to take your mind off of something going on in the moment. We can use mental games as a temporary fix when your thoughts are distracting you from an immediate goal or task. I think many of you do these, as we said before, without even knowing you do. As we begin to learn some of these games, think of ones that work for you. And, we're definitely going to want to hear about those along the way. I know when I was a kid, my parents in the waiting room at the doctor's office had us play I Spy. The anticipation as a young kid, you're freaked out. Am I going to get a shot today? I don't want to see this big scary guy in a white coat. And kudos to our parents. They took us out of that mindset and of that stress and put us in a place, I Spy. And we just went around the room looking for objects around the room. This is also where the military started using cadences during their physical training sessions to take their mind off of how far they are running or the effects and the exhaustion of how it affects our bodies. So I'm sure many athletes do this. I know when I was doing a triathlon, it just felt like it was a mile swim. And just to get to that next point, it was like every 100 meters, there was a marker. And I just kept counting in my head by twos to get to, I got to the next one. And then if it was 100 meters, I would say, all right, 200 meters, 202 meters. And I would just kept counting. And before I knew it, the mile of the swim was over. I didn't even think about how much my body was already going through. So for these games to work, they need your full attention. They must be hard and fun to keep you engaged and your mind busy. And they need to be games that you can do within a few minutes to get out of your own head and distract you. So some of the games that we've come across, through the master resiliency training were object games. What can you do with, and you pick an object, for instance, a paperclip, with this pandemic, you could think of what other things we could do with a face mask. I'm sure we're all so tired of wearing them on our face. Hopefully they'll be a thing of the past soon. Math games, count backwards from 1,000 by fives. That's pretty difficult. I think I'm better off counting forward. A lyric game, recite an upbeat song lyric. I just want to share a personal story with you guys. This is a skill I never realized I did. As Brett had mentioned before, I worked as an EMT in an inner city. The call volumes were very high. The level of acuity of patients were very high. So unfortunately, pronouncements of patients were something that we saw often. And speaking to families during that time was something that I took a lot of pride in when I was in those houses. But how easy is it to go from doing compressions on a working code, your adrenaline's pumping, trying to everything you can to save this person. And now you have to go into a calm mindset into speaking with these families. And for a fact, this is like the worst day of their life. They're going to remember this moment and how you spoke to them and what you said. You only have one shot at this for the rest of their life. They're going to remember this. So I noticed myself that I was thinking of singing a song, an upbeat song lyric in my head. And I had no idea, and probably till a year later, that I actually did this. And it was the same song lyric, the one lyric to a song. And I won't say anything or what it is, but every time. And I noticed I did it when I was moving from one room to another, that transition, leaving the patient to go find the family or downstairs. And it really helped me to be the provider that I want someone to be to my family in the unfortunate situation. And it took me out of that adrenaline rush and back down to a calming mental state. So I just wanted to share that little story with you guys. Some other games we can talk about were category games. Name all sports figures, actors, actresses. You can in 2 minutes. And another one is positive imagery. Create a detailed positive image of a situation or memory that helps you feel calm, positive, or confident. As first responders, this is so important because we need to take something like this and just a quick fix, immediate fix, to help us get through the situations, maybe while we're deconning our equipment in between difficult calls, or a quick fix during a call. Just find the time to do these little mental games to help you bring yourself back down from that flight or fight to just a calm state, to get your job done. And again, the more you practice these, the more they'll become a habit and you'll build off this. And, some of the things, like if you're not into sports, you don't really know actors, actresses, cater this to your own hobbies, what you like to do, and think outside the box. This can be with anything. So now we're going to have the opportunity to learn some mental games. Now we have the opportunity to learn some mental games. We're going to be able to play one. So as you're sitting here, think about what you could possibly do with a paperclip in any form. You can unbend it, but what can you possibly do with a paperclip? We're going to break out into small sessions and discuss them. I want one person, if you can, to be the writer and write them down. So when we come back, we can all discuss and play off each other's groups. So a box is going to pop up asking you to join in a room. So please click join. And just a friendly reminder, when you go to leave the breakout room, click leave breakout room, not leave meeting. Thank you. All right. So for some reason, we only had 2 people in our breakout session. I'm not sure how many you guys had, but we came up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different ideas. What about you guys?
Jess?
We came up with about 8.
8. Okay. Yep. Does anyone want to share either in the chat box or unmute yourself, like your favorite one, or do you think the most creative one?
I didn't list the one we got from Mr. Lewis, using paperclip as a fish hook.
Okay, we said knitting hook, but yeah, I love it.
Just all right, for small fish, though.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So next slide. Now I want to jump back into another breakout session. And this time we're going to discuss some things that we all do. That I'm sure we all come from different walks of life when we're stressed to help us redirect our minds. So think about some of the things that we spoke about already and think about ones that you may have done in a stressful situation that you'd like to share. And let's take this opportunity to grow from each other and learn about any games, mental games that we played. So again, a box is going to pop up asking you to join in a room. So please click join. And just a friendly reminder, when you leave the breakout room, click leave breakout room and not leave the meeting. All right, so it looks like everybody's back. Just want to see, if you guys would like to share anything that you've learned from somebody, through our breakout session, feel free to put in our chat box so we can all, grow and learn from each other. I learned that the person in my group does box breathing. Another person does like word games, either on their phone or just as a quick fix, in between calls or things like that. Downtime at work, when they're feeling really anxious or stressed, just to take their mind off of what's going on. So let's get into our next thinking trap. So I love that we were able all to share with each other, some of our own skills that we do. But let's talk about thinking traps now. This is our next skill. Thinking traps are overly rigid patterns in thinking that can cause us to miss critical information about a situation or individual. Thinking traps undermine our mental toughness and performance that can lead to an inaccurate understanding of the situation. And believe it or not, they're actually pretty common. The more that we learn about them, you're going to see that these happen in your everyday lives. And it's common to fall into a thinking trap, especially under stress. Thinking traps narrow our field of vision. They often lead to missing important information. So let's watch a video. It's a little short one to help us better understand thinking traps and what I'm talking about.
Thoughts can have a big impact on how we feel. Our brains can be lazy and take shortcuts in making sense of the world around us. We can easily fall into thinking traps, where we come to conclusions without looking at all the information. We might focus on all the negative stuff, or believe we can predict the future. We might think we can read someone else's mind, or blow things up and imagine the worst possible outcome. These traps can leave us feeling stressed and low. But once we start to notice them, we're much more able to ask, is this kind of thinking helping me? Or is there another way I could be thinking about this? Remember, just because we think it doesn't make it true.
All right. So there are many thinking traps out there, but here are the 6 that we're going to discuss today from the United States Army Master Resiliency Training Program. So I'm just going to start reading them off. We'll define them, and then we'll talk about ways that we can get out of them. So jumping to conclusions. Believing one is certain about a situation despite little or no evidence to support it. So how do we get out of this? We slow down, think about what is the evidence for and against my thoughts. Mind reading. Assume that you know what another person is thinking or expecting another person to know what you're thinking. What do? We speak up. Did I express myself? Did I ask for more information? Am I drawing conclusions? Me. Believing that you are the sole cause of every problem you encounter. Look outward. How did others and or circumstances contribute or not contribute? Them. Believing that the other people or circumstances are the sole cause of every problem you encounter. So how do we get out of this? Look inward. How did I contribute? Again, or how didn't you contribute? Always. Believing that negative events are unchangeable and that you have little or no control over them. What's our mental cue? Grab control. What is changeable? What can I control? Everything. Believing that you can judge one's worth or character based on a single event, or believing that what caused the problem is going to negatively affect many areas of one's life. So get specific. What is the specific behavior that explains this particular situation? And what specific area of my life will be affected? Not everything will be. So here's a video to see just what I'm talking about with one of these thinking traps.
It's a warm and pleasant Saturday in Denver, Colorado. Spring is springing, folks are brunching, dogs' tails are wagging, babies are napping. Let's for a moment focus in on one special Coloradan, Gail.
Hey, I need to talk to you about something, and a meeting will be done in 30 minutes. Oh, crap. What is it? What day is it? Did I forget to pay rent? No, I totally paid rent. We're getting evicted. We're totally getting evicted. I've never been evicted before. There's not enough time for me to find somewhere else to live. I'm gonna have to go back to Texas with my mom. I can't go back to Texas. She's never gonna let me forget this.
Now let's pause for a moment here to give you, audience, a little background. Gail has lived in this rented house with the same roommate for over a year. She has never been late on rent. She keeps a tidy home. And the few times she has needed to contact her landlord, their interactions have been mutually satisfying.
I did scratch the floor a little bit before putting the scratch pads on my new chair. He's been pretty clear
You
that
see,
he'd like to keep the
what
floors
Gail is
unscratched.
doing here is falling into a trap many of us fall into. A thinking trap.
He came over to check the furnace, and he saw the scratches.
Of all the different
And now he
thinking
knows that
traps,
I can't keep him
Gail
at home.
is
I'm
exhibiting
responsible
jumping
today, and I do not
to
deserve to be here.
conclusions.
Mom would have gotten the
She is
scratch
making
pads first thing.
assumptions
She would've
without
gotten them
seeking
before
more
she got the chair.
information.
That's how you do it. You get the
On
scratch
top of
pads
that,
before you get the
she's
chair.
blaming herself
And then
for the assumed eviction.
floors don't get scratched. I'm freaking out.
Now, let's just pause here. What could Gail do to avoid freaking out? She could stop. Well, she's already stopped, but you get the point. Ask,
Why would my landlord evict me? What backs that up?
think,
What are other reasons my roommate might need to talk to me? Something on the brighter side, maybe?
realize.
Oh, shoot. Our thoughts are powerful, and I can be in charge of choosing the healthy ones.
Ah, exactly.
Oh, hey, what did you want to talk to me about? You got tickets to the show. Isn't it sold out? That's amazing. I thought you were going to tell me we were getting evicted.
Ah, you see, all is okay in Gail's world. Thinking traps can wreak havoc in a life. They're dangerous. But with the proper tools and taking a moment to stop, ask, think, and realize, you can keep a clear head to handle whatever your roommate actually wanted to talk to you about.
All right, we're gonna read some through some scenarios. And as I'm going through the scenarios, I want you to ask yourself some of these questions. Um, which one of these thinking traps do you find yourself falling into? And you might discover that one of these traps is a dominant one for you. But on the other hand, you might discover that in one part of your life, like at home, you tend to lean on one trap, but professionally in a completely different one. The goal is for you to hear each one of these six and then to start to notice how these play out in your own life. I'm going to put in the chat box all six of the thinking traps. And as we go through a scenario and try to see if you can put into the, identify them. And once you do, share with us in the chat box what you're thinking. And so let's get started. Next slide. Oop. You are playing goalie in your police department's charity hockey game versus the fire department. The score is tied. In the third period with less than 10 seconds left, you miss the last shot on goal and the fire department wins the game. You think to yourself, it's all my fault. This was a big game and I lost it for us. Which thinking trap do you think this one is out of the six that we have identified and spoke about today? So share in the chat box your answers. I know we all kind of saw it, but hopefully we didn't. So that's right, me. Believing that you are the sole cause of everyone's problem you encounter. The key takeaway is sole cause of every, and this can lead to sadness, guilt, embarrassment, and the reaction that most of we have during this is excessive apologizing. And we need to look at the problem as a whole and see what the other contributing factors are instead of just me. Next slide. You've called home several times during your shift and you haven't been able to reach your spouse. You think to yourself, my wife is running around on me. Which of the thinking traps do you think this one is? That's right, jumping to conclusions. Little to no evidence and certain. This can lead to many consequences. This can lead to sadness, guilt, impulsiveness, our overall well-being, and this is the mother of all thinking traps. All thinking traps are some sort of jumping to conclusions. Next slide. You go home to talk to your son or daughter while on a deployment or during one of your shifts. He is distracted by the TV. You think to yourself, he is mad at me for working so much or being away. What thinking trap do you think this one is? Mind reading. You're expecting people to know what you're thinking. So the key takeaways are assume and expecting. Emotions that lead up to this are sadness, anger, and guilt. And this thinking trap prevents effective communication. It's the reaction to this example would be calling his or her son or daughter less just to avoid feeling that way. Next slide. Your unit screws up a training exercise. You think to yourself, I'm stuck with a bunch of losers. These guys are bringing the unit down. Which thinking trap would you say this is? All right, Alan and Jess, them, believing that other people or circumstances are the sole cause of every problem you encounter. So your keywords are sole cause and every. This can lead to emotions of anger and reactions of aggression building up, yelling at the fellow soldiers or someone in your platoon. This can lead to victim mentality. So again, it's important to think about all the contributing factors of the situation. Next slide. You are newly promoted and had a change to your schedule. Your wife calls you at work to remind you that this is your day to pick up your son at daycare, and you are 15 minutes late. You think, I'm a terrible husband and father. I can't even pick up my child on time. You also think, if I can't do that, how am I going to be responsible for my platoon? Which thinking trap do you think this is? Next slide. That's right. Everything, where you can believe you can judge one character based on one single event or believing what caused that problem is going to affect many areas of one's life. This can lead to sadness and reaction of withdrawal and giving up. This is another very common thinking trap, just like jumping to conclusions, and it limits you from being able to change since you think one event affects everything and this is the most toxic thinking trap. Next slide. All right, a couple more. You receive a verbal written warning from your sergeant or your immediate supervisor. You think to yourself, I'll never be promoted. My career is over. Which one do you think this is? Next slide. Always. So believing that negative events are not changeable and little to no control. The keywords are not changeable and no control. So this can lead to withdrawal and can lead to emotions of sadness, hopelessness, and helplessness. Next slide. So it's great that we could learn a little bit more about these thinking traps. Y'all did so good. But so let's take a quick self-assessment about our thinking traps through a Zoom poll. I'm not sure. Oh, there you go. All right. So, wow. So let's look at our results. The one thinking trap that I have used before is, and the most two common ones, jumping to conclusions and mind reading. I find myself getting caught in thinking traps in my personal life. And again, thinking traps are common, so don't feel ashamed that, you had to, not had to, but they answered sometimes. It's great that we can learn from these. And now that we know what they are, we can help pull ourselves out of them. I find myself getting caught in thinking traps in my professional life. Rarely is 20% and sometimes is 80%. I'm able to think positively about myself when faced with new challenges. That's great. We have a lot of very great people that are able to pull themselves out and think positively. This is great. It's the only way we're going to learn and grow from situations. And again, during stressful and challenging times, I can maintain effective relationship with those, sorry, there was a spelling error, involved, often and sometimes and always. This is great. Love hearing this great stuff. You guys keep working at it. Next slide.
Thank you for joining me today in this guided imagery meditation. Let's start off by entering the present moment with our breath. You may close your eyes or simply soften your gaze, whatever is most comfortable for you. Taking a deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth. One more time. In through our nose and out through our mouth. As you allow yourself to be guided through this meditation, you may continue this breathing pattern. Now begin to create a picture in your mind of a place where you can completely relax. Imagine what this place needs to be like in order for you to feel calm and relaxed. Start by picturing the physical layout of this place you're imagining. Where is this peaceful place? You might envision somewhere outdoors, or maybe your peaceful place is indoors. You've placed maybe a small space, or maybe it is a vast landscape. Simply create an image of this place in your mind. Now picture some more details about your peaceful place. Who is in this place? Are you alone? Are other people present? Maybe there are some animals, some birds. Imagine who is at your place with you. Begin to be aware of even more detail about your surroundings. Imagine the sensation of touch. What does the temperature feel like in your place? Is there any breeze present? What kind of surface are you on? Imagine all the details of the calming place in your mind. What can you see in your place of peace? Are there any objects present? Take this moment to appreciate all the beautiful things that make your place enjoyable. Begin to picture yourself in this calming place. What are you doing in this place? Perhaps you are sitting and simply enjoying, or maybe you're walking around. As we continue to breathe, we're going to add more detail to this image. Imagine feeling calm. Notice the feeling of calm and how it presents in your body. You are in a place where you have no worries, no cares, no concerns. you are in a place where you can rejuvenate, relax, and simply enjoy being. As we appreciate this newfound tranquility, let's take one more deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth. When you are ready to return to your day, you may open your eyes. You can file away this imaginary place in your mind and know that it is waiting for you the next time you need it. Take a moment right now to notice how you are feeling. And know that at any point throughout your day, you can revisit your peaceful place within just a few breaths. Thank you for holding this space with me.
All right, thank you. So we just want to say, please join us for our next month's webinar, Rise, Resilience, Strength of Character, on July 21st at 1 p.m. Next slide. We want to thank you for joining us today and taking the time out of your busy days to be with us and build your resilience. We also want to thank our first responders, military vets, and our chaplains, and your families for all you do for the front lines of your community. Thank you again. Here's our phone number if you need to reach us, 1-833-237-4325. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you again for joining us. Bye-bye.